This is the second episode on suspension setup. In the first, we covered basics like sag and rebound. In this episode, we will get a little deeper into the setup. Our goal with these videos is to provide riders better understanding of suspension, and in doing so, better understanding of the features available on different models of dampers. First question for you is, how much travel are you using versus how much travel should you use? The most common issue is riders insisting on, quote, getting full travel, unquote, in conditions that don't require full travel. Travel is a funny thing. I can get pretty close to bottoming out my bike in the parking lot if I really try. But riding, I generally use around 65 to 80% of my fork travel. Steeper trails can actually use less travel since the momentum down is being vectored differently than a flatter trail. I like to have the last little bit of fork travel for oh man scenarios. If I'm using full travel and can't recall something I did wrong or missed, then it's likely I'm using too much travel. With the rear, it's more likely that I'm using full travel. I tend to ride a bit off the back of the bike, and while I work to float as much as possible, my concentration is always getting the fork through it. The rear end will usually follow, so it tends to take more of a beat. Travel usage can be modified with volume spacing and compression setups. We're going to look at balancing compliance and support using compression and air volume. Support allows the bike to ride in a way that isn't soft and plows into corners or terrain. Suspension needs to give so you don't rattle your teeth out, but resist diving in to the point that your body weight tries to pass the bike. Riders create support with air pressure, volume spacing, which modifies the ramp rate, and compression settings. Often new riders simply keep increasing the air pressure. In fact, many experienced riders do this as well, and to a degree, it works. However, at some point, to gain the support from the air spring, your sag measurement is lower than the 20 to 25% most riders like to ride in. This compromises small bump compliance and creates a bike that wants to skip at slow and medium speeds across smaller terrain. Volume spacers are a good way to add support by increasing the air spring's progressivity or ramp rate. Additional volume spacers decrease the volume in the air chamber. The pressure increases more rapidly as the piston compresses the air. The increased ramp rate means the spring pushes back with more PSI per millimeter of travel, which adds to support. You may need to add volume spacers if you're using too much travel for the given terrain, or if you feel the bike wants to bury itself rather than change directions. FYI, remember that up is a direction when you're going over things. Removing volume spacers increases the volume of air. With more air volume, the air spring doesn't compress as quickly, producing less pressure on the piston per millimeter of travel. This takes away some support and has a more linear feel to the spring. You might reduce volume spacers if you're not getting enough travel for the given terrain, or if the bike starts to feel too harsh in the mid-stroke. I set up the volume spacers where I want them and then use compression settings for finite tuning. As you gain experience, you will know pretty close in a parking lot test where you want the volume spacing. Back-to-back tests are helpful as well. Compression is hydraulic dampening on the suspension's in-stroke, or the opposite of rebound, literally as it compresses. Like volume spacing, compression is used to fine-tune the suspension's support. Increasing the compression slows the shaft input, adding hydraulic support to the air spring. Three-way open, mid, firm levers are compression controls. Most trail and enduro bikes offer suspension with independent compression controls to fine-tune performance. The more aggressive you ride, the more compression support will benefit your riding. With too little compression or support, suspension will set in too deep. This will make direction changes harder, as some of the input will likely be wasted into the suspension before engaging the tires. Too much compression and you will find a harsh ride while losing total travel. It's a bit of a balancing act of ground speed and setup. The faster you ride, the stiffer you'll need your bike for burly terrain at speed. However, the faster you ride, the less you tend to bury the bike, so you may find that your stiffer suspension actually feels more compliant as you ride faster. Some suspension offers high and low speed damping controls. This has become more popular as damping improves and riders are looking for more finite adjustment. Years ago, low speed meant the beginning of the suspension stroke, and high tended to mean the end of the travel. Engineers have greatly improved the damping systems, and now low refers to low shaft speed and high refers to high shaft speed regardless of the amount of stroke used. Low speed is typically balanced for small bump compliance and support. High speed is used for full travel or fast inputs that would overwhelm a standard low speed setup. When low and high speed options are available, they are generally found adjusted in proportion to each other. That's to say, it would be unlikely to have one dialed all the way in and the other all the way out. All of this data can be confusing to riders, which is why at the bike company, when riders purchase a bike, suspension, or any of our ProTune suspension offerings, our staff will contact them regularly to help them dial it in. Read on for more information on dialing your suspension in and check out the other blogs on BikeCo.com.